Okay, why don't we kick it off with what we have right now here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a 180 Markets live stream. Friends, Paul and I were just talking a couple minutes ago. There are not many cases out there or situations where you really do have exponential upside downside in here with a circa $10 million market cap to something that could be a multi-bagger. But not only that, with a clear, short, delineated timeline. And that's why we're excited today to be joined again by Paul Gavin, CEO of Avecho, because Avecho is a biotechnology company imminently going to begin phase 3 trials for its cannabis product. And with that, Paul, people don't want to hear from me, they want to hear from you. Just give us a little bit of an overview. And for people, we know that there are a lot that are watching that are not that familiar with Avecho. Maybe just give 2 minutes about the company.
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time. So Avecho is a Melbourne-based biotechnology company. So important to remember that we're biotech. We've been biotech for 20 years. We have a proprietary excipient or ingredient that we manufacture ourselves that allows us to increase the absorption of drugs. And if you increase the absorption of drugs, you can increase their therapeutic potential and you can achieve commercial differentiation. So we've been using it for the last 15, 20 years in the pharmaceutical space. And so we've commercialized products with Novartis and Dr. Reddy's and all the rest. And we've, over the last 4 years, started to focus it on cannabidiol, which is one of the ingredients from medicinal cannabis. We are not a medicinal cannabis company. Do not confuse us with a medicinal cannabis company. We're using the last 20 years of pharmaceutical expertise and rigor to really overcome a lot of the deficiencies of the medicinal cannabis market. And those deficiencies really are that cannabis has really poor absorption. The companies involved in medicinal cannabis don't do really formal drug development. And that's created a lot of the stigma associated with medicinal cannabinoids. So we optimized a product for increased absorption across 4 countries. We've done the early phase sort of clinical work in Australia. We're about to start phase 3 clinical trial, which is obviously the key inflection point for any biotech. And we think we'll put out an announcement about recruitment next week, opening
Next week.
And yeah, like this is a crazy unique opportunity. So the TGA at the moment, so our TGA, who is very dissatisfied with medicinal cannabis, and the reason why they are dissatisfied for medicinal cannabis is what I described earlier. The companies involved are able to sell it through a TGA loophole without doing the normal pharmaceutical development, without proving it works in clinical trials and proving it's safe and all the rest. They pretty much all just say, it's natural. We've been using it for thousands of years. Let's just prescribe it. Whereas to get it listed with the TGA, you have to do the normal work in the drug space. And so the TGA, to overcome this, has dangled a big carrot in front of everyone, which is if you do the phase 3 clinical trials, if you prove it works, if you get it registered with the TGA, they'll allow it to be registered as an over-the-counter medicine, which is unheard of around the world. So an over-the-counter medicine is one where it's the one that lives in the pharmacy behind the counter with the pharmacist. You don't need a prescription. You can walk into any pharmacist in the country and buy it directly. You have direct access to the entire Australian adult population. Huge commercial opportunity. Australians spend over $5 billion a year on OTC medicines. And all the other medicinal cannabis companies that have chased this opportunity have failed. So we are now the last one standing. The TGA desperately wants one of these products approved. We look like being their last chance. We met with them a month ago.
And this is critical. Yes.
Yeah. We had very open conversation with them a month ago. We said, you want this product, we want this product, we're your last chance. You need to do whatever you can from a guidance perspective to give us some help, make sure we're doing the right thing. Ran through our clinical trial protocol and our submission strategy. And they had no criticism to add, no changes to request. So we could jump into our phase 3 with confidence, knowing that if it works, it's still a phase 3 clinical trial. You're still going to prove the drug works. That we're on the fast track to getting it registered. And the last piece in this really long introduction, apologize, is that the pharmaceutical companies around the world are watching pharmaceutical cannabinoids with great interest. There's only one on the planet so far, CBD, that's approved with the FDA and the TGA. It's a product called Epidiolex for rare childhood epilepsy. And the company was acquired for $7.2 billion US in 2021. to obtain that product. So high interest in the space, so long as you can prove that it works. And we think we're in the box position to prove that it works.
Right. And you're going specifically because there are a lot of use cases out there for the product, but specifically you're going for insomnia?
We are. So again, CBD, cannabidiol being interrogated for a whole range of indications around the world. And don't get me wrong, our product could be applicable to all of those. When the TGA specifically opened this OTC opportunity, we were developing the pharmaceutical cannabinoid anyway. We went, this makes complete sense for us. And so no one would ordinarily develop a pharmaceutical product looking at the TGA first, because we're a small market, small population. But given the opportunity here and the opportunity to make it a registered medicine early, it was too good to ignore. I mean, and we're doing this on the step around the world. So we're obviously focused on the rest of the world, but this is unique. And the minute we said OTC indication or OTC opportunity, it had to be an indication that was appropriate for an OTC medicine. So an OTC medicine can't be for a disease that needs medical intervention, like cancer or any of these other kind of things. And it can't be for a drug that has an inappropriate safety profile. And so it needs medical supervision for the drug itself. It has to be a short list of things that a member of the public can diagnose themselves and wander into a pharmacy. So essentially it left us with choosing between kind of pain, anxiety, sleep, maybe symptoms of IBS, IBD, and a couple of. So when you look at the prevalence of insomnia in the Western world, which is like 40% of all of us, none of us are sleeping appropriately, and it's a huge growing problem. And you've all probably seen the recent SBS profile about how it's turning into an epidemic. We kind of are looking at insomnia at exactly the right time.
Right. Perfect there. And also, Paul, you're not the first person or first company to try to get the approval, as you said. What are the learnings, do you think, from people that maybe have not fared well, where Avecho is doing it differently?
Yeah, so we really spent a long time on this phase 3 trial. So we were one of the first companies when this OTC opportunity was unveiled by the TGA to say, we've looked at the indications and we think we'll do sleep. And then a bunch of the other guys came out and said, we're going to do sleep too. And they all ran into phase 3 clinical trials really quickly. And the thing about clinical trials in Australia is that when you're doing a clinical trial, you have to register your design on a database called the ANZ Clinical Trial Registry. So you can see what other people are doing. And so we had a look. We quickly realized that these look like pretty rudimentary phase 3 clinical trials. They were very likely to not end well. And we were, interviewed in the public domain saying as much. We spent, as I say, a year building ours. We used the FDA guidance documents on how to do an insomnia trial. We used the European guidance documents on how to do an insomnia trial. We pulled the last 2 or 3 submission packages from the FDA for the last insomnia drugs. And we really quickly identified the things that you have to do to maximize the chance with insomnia. So the first thing is really there's a very high placebo effect.
Okay.
Really high placebo effect. And that's true for any clinical trial with a subjective endpoint where you're asking patients how they feel. The minute you ask anyone how they're feeling, you can get a subjective answer. And so the thing everyone has to recognize is that our study, all the studies, but our study has 3 treatment arms. It has placebo, and then a low dose of CBD and a higher dose of CBD. We know sleep will improve for all of them. It will improve for placebo because people will be on clinical trial, they'll assume they're getting drug, and their sleep will improve as a result.
Right.
The art is designing the study in such a way that you can see an increased magnitude of improvement with your drug as opposed to placebo. So we've got mechanisms in our trial to minimize the placebo response, which are key. We've also got higher inclusion scores than what the other companies used. So significantly higher inclusion scores. So our insomnia is more severe, which gives us a larger scope to see a difference. We have significantly higher patient numbers. So for the most part, they dosed around 200 people. We're dosing 519, and that's where you get your statistical power from.
Okay.
Using a higher dose. So 2 of the 3 that failed only went to 100 milligrams of CBD, whereas the TGA is allowing you to go to 150. So they left 50 milligrams on the table straight away. And then our product, has increased absorption as well. So it'll act as a higher dose. And lastly, we have an interim analysis. So 200 patients in, the statisticians will have a look at the data in a blinded fashion and say, based on what we're seeing here, we calculate you'll need another 20, 50, 100, whatever it is, patients
Right.
per group to maximize the chance of success of the trial. So it's basically having a bit of a cheat look mid-trial to maximize the chance of seeing a successful endpoint. That's very common in a pharmaceutical phase 3 trial, but none of the medicinal cannabis companies did it. So yeah, when any one of those things that I just mentioned realistically could be the difference between passing and failing. But when you add all of those together, the increase in power of our study is huge. And just the last piece. So the last trial that failed late last year,
Yes.
we didn't want to see anyone fail. Like, it's good for the sector if, you know,
Right.
everything does work. The first 2 trials early last year failed very specifically. They came out and said placebo effect. Who knew there would be a placebo effect? Whereas the last study, very interestingly, did some sort of post hoc analysis. So they did 3 treatment groups. They did placebo, and then they did 50 milligrams of CBD and 100 milligrams of CBD. And in a post hoc statistical analysis, they found that overall the study failed, but when they looked at the stats behind the scenes, 100 milligrams of CBD looked statistically better than placebo and
Interesting.
the 50 milligrams. But they didn't have the statistical power to see that in the primary endpoint. And so what that tells you straight away is they've set up a dose response, but they didn't use a high enough dose. They didn't go to 150
Right.
we're doing. And very specifically, they didn't use enough patients. So they dosed 208. We're dosing 519. We're doing about 200 for our interim analysis. So our interim analysis is as powerful as their entire study.
I see.
So yeah, we looked at that, announced that result, and really felt that it de-risked our study to a fair degree. So whilst we don't want to see anyone fail, it was very comforting for us.
Right. Well, there's some key learnings there about, as you said, about that the increasing that, you know, quote unquote size matters, whether it's 0, 50, 100, 150. And also for viewers who don't know, it's still very, very safe at these levels there because isn't that right, Paul?
Oh, the CBD, yeah. So I mean, this entire over-the-counter opportunity with the TGA, it's unheard of. It is unheard of that a new drug would go to the TGA first. So the TGA will be the first regulatory agency to see a CBD product for sleep, as opposed to the FDA or the Europeans or Japan. And it rarely ever happens that a drug will go straight to OTC. So normally a drug is approved as a prescription medicine, and then once it's been in the world for a couple of years and everyone confirms it's safe, it gets down scheduled to OTC. But because Epidiolex, the product that's currently approved for epilepsy, has such screamingly high doses, it's set quite a high safety margin. And so the TGA was prepared to accept that a dose of 150 milligrams is safe and could go straight to OTC.
Right. So, Paul, you mentioned that the TGA is very interested in getting this on board here, which means the time is of the essence. Give us the timeline. We're right now, as we're filming here, it's circa end of March, which is crazy in itself. But what does the rest of the calendar year look like, maybe?
So the calendar year is all about getting us to our interim analysis.
Correct.
So as I say, we think recruitment's going to open next week. And then we'll be dosing as fast as we can. And we're hoping to dose our 200 patients that get to our interim analysis by the end of the year. Now, the piece, full disclosure, that we don't know is what our ultimate recruitment rate will look like. So we have our recruitment rate estimated with all our clinical trial sites. And so we've got an initial estimate, but if that turns out to be faster or slower, then it could have interim analysis could happen earlier, or it could happen a bit. But we will get a feel for that after a couple of months, and we'll be able to update everyone who's interested about the timelines.
That's great. And as far as these interim analysis versus maybe like a full analysis, which takes a bit longer here, on the interim, though, we are going to get a lot of very statistically important information. Is that how you look at it as well?
So yeah, so the statistical analysis is not going to say, you know, CBD works for sleep yet. Like, if we did that level of analysis, it would actually penalize us significantly when we did the full analysis at the end.
Okay.
So what this is designed to do is the first pass is say, is there a difference between the treatment groups? If not, bail early on the study and save all the rest of the money. But
Right.
in the event there is a difference between the treatment groups, then the statisticians will say, yes, there is a difference, and you need this many patients to get your statistical significance and make sure you win at the end, assuming this works. Now, the market will, especially given the failures, the market will take that as drug working. And
Right.
so will potential licensees. But I should emphasize, it's not that level of
Yeah.
investigation. It's just saying there is difference between the treatment groups. We would assume that's the difference between treatment and placebo, and you need X number of patients to complete the study.
Understood. Now, Paul, you've been around for a bit, some time now. Avecho, even though obviously all eyes are on this TGA approval here, it's more than a one-trick pony. Can you just tell us a little bit about the other products there, the gummies and so forth and so on?
Sure. So, we've used, the great thing about our ingredient is it's a platform technology. So it's applicable to a whole lot of different dosage forms. And we've been able to move so quickly in the pharmaceutical cannabis space because of all the work we've done over the last 20 years. And so we already have a whole range of different oils, which obviously, formed the prototype for this CBD capsule. With all the different cannabinoids, which we can sort of exploit in the medicinal and the recreational cannabis markets. We have the soft gel capsule, the topical transdermal gel that we've got commercialized with Novartis. We put the cannabinoid products into that and showed that it has great transdermal absorption. We did a phase 2 clinical trial with that in osteoarthritis of the hands. We've been trying to get this larger clinical trial up and running with that, with topical CBD and topical CBG. So that's a whole range of new applications. And the gummies, which are the feature, I guess, of the North American recreational space.
Yes.
They're soon to be a key feature of the Australian medicinal space. We showed that if you put our technology into a gummy, you get this rapid absorption. It absorbs through the mouth, 15-minute onset. We're sitting here thinking, about the medical applications of that, and we think there are some really great medical applications. The North Americans don't care so much about the medical applications, and they say, so you're telling me my customers will get high in 15 minutes.
Right.
Now, we have zero intention ourselves of getting involved in Avecho playing in that market space. We are going to focus on pharma, but we are more than happy to license the use of these gummies to some of those people who want to exploit it in those markets. And so as we speak, we already have a couple of companies in North America who have replicated the gummy in their facilities, confirmed that it has the rapid onset that we kind of hoped that it would.
Right.
And so we're exploring with them what kind of commercial opportunities that would be in their product ranges in North America, which would be awesome.
Right. Hey, Paul, it's just, as I said, such in the beginning, it's such an exciting story, such a good risk reward, such a short timeline. Do you have any closing remarks for people other than to obviously watch the space very, very carefully daily?
No, I guess, if you're a biotech follower, I think if I were you, I'd have a look at what's happened with Dimerix.
I know.
We're in a similar situation to us not that long ago.
Yes.
So in a phase 3, low market cap, running towards interim analysis, got the partner on board, everything flew. And have a look at the share. There's, to your point at the start, Greg, our share price is at basement level. It's not going to go down from here. There's very little risk in buying in now, but this is probably as low as it gets. And we obviously think through the conduct of a phase 3 trial, it starts to run. If we get any of these partners on, it starts to run. The other Australian biotech companies in phase 3 are sort of valued between 200 to 400 million.
Yes.
So we know we're heading up to a big re-rate. So really encourage people to jump on now.
Right. That's great, Paul. Thank you so much. And also for investors, I just want to let you know that we are in a golden age now of biotechnology. As Paul said, there's so many trials, not just here in Australia, but globally. And as much as there is strife in the world, it is so glad to see these medical breakthroughs. So thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, everybody. If you have any questions, just let us know. Paul is always available. I think you're speaking again tomorrow even. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.